Welcome back to AM Northwest Prime Time. Our next guest has made a fortune doing what he loves in the real estate market, and he says we can all do what we love if we just tap into what motivated us as kids. So here to tell us how is the author of How to Ignite Your Passion for Living, Mark Haraldson. Good to see you, Mark.
Good to
what
be
ignited
here.
us as kids was candy and treats. Is that what you're saying works in the workplace today?
Not exactly
Oh, okay.
that, but I think what so many people do when as they become an adult, they start going in directions they really didn't have a passion for. Maybe their parents pushed them that way, a teacher or something, and they end up where in a position, a job, profession that they really don't love. And I think this meltdown that we've had in some ways is the best thing that could happen. First of all, there's a whole generation, new generation, that think they're entitled to goodies and
Sure.
a big house and cars and so on. But this has kind of forced us to look back to our roots of taking time to see what we really love. And if you go back and think what you loved as a child, that's where the passion was, whatever that was. And then the other thing I talk a lot about in this book, which is a lot about goal setting, because if you set tough goals for yourself that really push you, then when you achieve them, you have this huge passion, and it's partially or mostly driven by the brain chemicals of serotonin and dopamine and cortisol that really fire your brain and want to keep going.
One of your tips is to just completely ignore this recession.
Yeah.
Despite how depressing it is, despite you may be unemployed.
Exactly. In fact, when I started my real estate career of buying, and I had a full-time job, I was doing this on the side, made millions of dollars, but I didn't even know in 1972, 1973, that was the worst recession they'd had since the Great Depression. I didn't even know it because I wasn't watching TV, I wasn't reading the newspapers. I just had to focus on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to buy, and how to do it. And quite frankly, talking about real estate, now when the blood is running in the streets, that's the time to buy.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
But you've got to have no fear. You've got to follow a passion, don't you?
You really do. The fear factor is a big one, and of course, what fear does to us all is it puts us in a non-action state. In fact, one of the things I'll say is, and I talk about is, the key to passion is action. If you want satisfaction, you have to act. And again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but set tough goals.
How do you recommend people set goals? I think a lot of people say, I want to lose weight as an example, or I want to get a promotion, or I want this job. But that's very vague, isn't it?
It is. And most people, including myself, and sometimes we don't take enough time to decide what we really want. And so we say, I want to do that. And you go off after it half-heartedly. What you need to do is spend time writing down pros and cons of what you want. And then, of course, writing it down is a critical part. And most people know that. Most people know also you need to set a time frame. If we all lived forever, which we found out just earlier today, it doesn't happen, we wouldn't have to put a time frame. But set a time frame. And what happens to the brain, and they don't understand why, is your brain, your subconscious works on that if you set a deadline. And I talk about some things that even goals I've kind of forgotten about. I set a deadline, and all of a sudden I found myself towards the end of the deadline doing something about it. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing that I add is kind of a new thing. It's kind of my own thing. It's called BRAM. Write down a BRAM list. What a BRAM is write down the benefits of losing weight, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to know the benefits, the reasons you're doing it, and the motivation, what motivations you have. And by the way, one thing on weight loss, and I talk a lot about that too, most people set the wrong goal. They say, I want to lose 20 pounds.
Right.
Bad goal, even if you put a deadline on it. You want to, because what happens is you lose it, then you gain it back.
Right.
You want to say,
right.
I want to weigh this for the rest of my life, whatever this is, and then you write down the details, and then the step-by-step stuff has to be in there.
How does childhood play into this? I mean, is it because kids don't have limitations?
Kids don't have limitations, plus kids' brains are full of dopamine and serotonin.
They're crazy.
Yeah, they are. I wish we were like Benjamin Button and start the other way around. But kids don't have those limitations. They have all that energy, and most people don't know this either. About 35 or 40, your brain produces less and less of those brain chemicals. And that's why you see so much depression and lack of passion. But there's things that will jolt that passion. One of the things, brain chemical, actually it's a steroid, it's called cortisol. If you do a hard physical activity, lifting weights, tough hike, tough bike ride, tough tennis. And one reason I brought my gold medal that was my big goal in a World Senior Games in tennis, 65 to 70.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, because one of your big tips is to get moving.
Get moving
Right.
and work. Physical challenges pump the cortisol, and that makes you feel good. If you combine that cortisol pumping from hard physical activity with a new experience, a novel experience, novelty stimulates the brain. We look at these people that want to do a 100-mile race or even a marathon or climb Mount Everest, and we say they are crazy. No, they're not crazy. They know that it pumps their passion because of these brain chemicals.
Right. It's fantastic. How to ignite your passion for living. Mark